Hey beautiful family. Before I left Tanzania, I had a little chat with some of my team, and it came about off the back of the 10 children that I posted who needed to move in and join our family. Actually, we wound up with 12 children because we found 2 girls a night later after I posted that video as well. But what happened was some of the team hesitated. And this is a new occurrence because due to what's gone on with the pandemic, sometimes money has become imbalanced and it's affected the team and they've seen it. And so the confidence that the money would be there to provide became a little bit shaky. And for the whole time that I have built the NGO, that's never happened. Because I have been very stern and certain, and I've also buffered and protected everybody from that task, because it's quite a thing to shoulder, that you are going to totally and utterly see what you believe and not believe what you see. That you are going to go by absolute faith and not by sight, especially when it comes to the well-being of human beings, children. And so I never wanted anyone to shoulder that burden. I wanted it so as I knew when I meet children in crisis that they will come into our care and God will provide. And that's a scary thing. It's very natural for that to be scary. And somehow this trickled down to the team, and there was hesitation. And the hesitation was basically, will there be resources for these children? Do we dare bring them in, or will we be left struggling to feed them? And what I said to the team was, when you do that, you have to look at who is the God of your situation. Because when we do that, we are not allowing for the God of the situation to be God. As the Bible says, look to the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap, yet your heavenly Father provides for them. Are you not more important than they? What that's telling you is that the provisions will be made for you. When you are living from the Spirit, God will come. Those with an extremely cluttered carnal mind, there's no guarantee God will be able to provide for you, because you lean on your own understanding so heavily that even when God tries to give you guidance to go this way, it's not heard, and you, instead of turning left to go and meet His provision, you turn right based on your own understanding. In those instances, many persons go without. But what I was trying to show was that the God of that situation, if when you go to help children in crisis, you say to yourself, perhaps I don't have enough money to do it, you have just made the God of that situation the bank account, the economy, the central bank, whatever you want to deem it. You have basically said that the only way I can get money for these children is from the bank. You have totally taken over the hows which are infinite in God's world. And you have said that God can't, using the infinite possibilities, get that money to you. Because you are believing what it is that you see. You are saying to yourself, I don't have provision stored away in a big stockpile to help these children, and so I don't then have the trust and the faith in God to bring them in, that He will provide. Now, I'm not saying that's what the team are like, but in this instance, the hesitation comes off the back of that, making the God of your situation something other than God and His promises. God has made a promise for provision for the needy, and He will, through the hands and feet of those who dare to walk by faith and not by sight, see that promise manifest. I guarantee it. But when we hesitate, when people say, I would help those children, but I don't have any money, that's because your God is not God. Your God is your bank. Your God is your economic support. Now, don't get me wrong, we need a bank. We need an economy. But when you are talking about walking in service to God, those things have to change. Your priority has to be God, and the God of your situation must be God. Now, in recent years, I learned this lesson the hard way, because I would have doctors telling me, you don't recover from this illness. Doctors told me, once you get to late stage Lyme disease, the recovery chance is extremely slim. Very few people are recovered. Most people wind up disabled, etc. You end up in a wheelchair. And instead of believing the promise that a loving father, where possible, will heal his children, and allowing God in the situation to be that, so when these things were said to me, my faith should have shouted and said, no, I rebuke what you're saying, because my God is a loving God and he will, to all his capacity, make me well. I made the doctors the God of my situation. And it doesn't mean the doctors are bad people, because the God of their situation was their intellect and their academia. And this is a problem in the world we must address. I'm going to caveat quickly and say we need academics. The world is a better place for them. I have hired a great many academics inside Tanzania who are medical professionals, etc., who are better suited to do the jobs that they are doing than I ever would be, because I haven't dedicated years of my life to understanding things like physiotherapy, etc. So these persons absolutely needed. But inside the mix, you must have persons, you must have the renegade, you must have the one who does not listen to society and goes beyond there. And I've got a great example of this, because one of the most famous photographs in the world is of a starving child with a vulture behind them. And most have seen this photo, and it won awards, and it's a very powerful image. But what many of you might not know is the story behind that photo. That the photographer who took that picture was instructed by academics who made their intellect and their own understanding the God of the situation in its own form. And they had told this photographer, do not interfere with the situation here, and don't touch the people, you might catch a disease. So this photographer, instead of helping that child, instead of picking up that child and taking them to get medical aid and food, waited for hours for the vulture to open its wings and get a better photograph. 4 weeks after the photograph was taken, or 4 weeks after it won the award, one of the two, I can't remember which, the photographer took his own life. He committed suicide. Now, he had seen many things, and it's a hard discussion to have when it comes to photography. But there's nothing spoiling someone from making the picture that is needed to show the world what is going on, and then running off and picking up the child and taking them to the safety and the love of caring human beings. There's nothing spoiling that. And of course we need photographs to communicate what's going on in other parts of the world, and I don't take that away. But when you are watching a starving child and you go against everything that makes a human, you go against all of the great faculties of humanity, because some academics have told you that you should not touch these children, not because they're coming from a place of love or making the God of the situation a loving God, but they are leaning on their own understanding and coming from their precept notions that they have created away from emotion and feeling inside the classroom setting. And look at the end result. We have a man who took his own life as he'd seen too much, and arguably, I'm sure, not acting on the things that he was seeing played a huge role in that. Because what are you telling your heart and your subconscious and your conscience when you do that? And so the God of your situation has to be God when you have made the decision to walk in service. Has to be. To be qualified to do something like what I do, as I say, I have assembled a team of people who are far better qualified to help the children, rehabilitate them, care for them than I am. But inside that mixture, you have to have a man or a woman like me. You have to have the person who, when they see children in crisis, say, I'm picking them up and I'm taking them to safety. And I don't care if the accountant is telling me we don't have money in the account. I don't care if my doubting mind is telling me we don't have provision for this. I don't care if my mind is saying, who am I to take on the responsibility of this other human being who's vulnerable and alone? And saying, God in this situation will strengthen me. God will bring me the resources. God will bring me the right people to see through. God will keep his promises. And he will, in doing so, allow us to express the best side of humanity. And this is why Share Tanzania grew so rapidly, whilst NGOs all around us were closing even. This is why NGOs who were far better staffed and better seated than ourselves are now disappearing. And it's not a competition. I want them to succeed. I've got nothing personal in that sense against them. But the difference is that I really believe it's because I was captaining things from that position of, first of all, God can't fill a purse till it's empty. So if a child is needing something and we have money, we're going to spend it. We won't hold on to it to save up for this or that. We'll just help who is needing help. We won't let resources sit dormant. And to do that, to have the bravery to do that, you have to walk by faith and not by sight. And so you must make the God of your situation the loving God that promised to give provision to those in crisis and those in need. And when you take that leap once or twice, it will change you forever, because you will be nestled and rooted in something better than a bank account, better than a supermarket, better than a secure environment, because you know that whatever situation and environment you go into, God will be there, and his presence will be there in other human beings if needs be, or however it may manifest, to ensure that you have the provisions you need to walk in the light of God and bring the love of God to this world. But it takes faith to do that. And most persons have faith. Jesus said even faith the size of a mustard seed is enough. But what people don't have is belief. They're riddled with unbelief. When you go to help children and you say, I can't because I don't have money in the bank account, you're just advertising that you don't believe God's promises. You might have faith, you might love God, but you don't know how to love God. If you knew how to love God, you would trust what was told to you. You would trust that God is there. And so when someone needs you, and you're down to your last $100 in your bank account, or you're down to your last 10,000, your last million, wherever you are in the world, that you know that if that person is hungry, and you have provision, and you make sure that they are cared for, that God will restore it to you tenfold. And I've seen that in my own life over and over again. And when there's hesitation, and you make the God of the situation your bank, or your bank account, your bank balance, the restoration is slow to come. Because the belief is in something other than God's, and so the unbelief is firmly rooted on God. And if you want to get rid of unbelief, for the record, this kind cometh out except through fasting and prayer is not only labelled to demons, it's labelled to our unbelief too. When you get light enough and in that presence of spirit, through fasting and prayer and seeking every second earnestly God's presence, your confidence to do things that most would say is insane just becomes regular everyday decision making. To take in hundreds of children and say that God will provide for them, it becomes effortless. But I know myself that this is not easy, because I even lost focus that it was God's responsibility, and I made myself sick by feeling the pressure and burden of providing for so many, by accidentally believing the illusion that it was John who was providing. I made myself so ill, so I'm not a master of this, but I have done it, and I know this lesson better than most. The God of your situation in every situation must be God, to be a good servant and disciple. And woe to those who fall off that wagon once they start on it, like me, because the consequences are very dire. Because you cannot work in the supernatural love that is needed from the natural state without getting wholeheartedly ill. It's too much burden, too much anxiety. And thank God I woke up to it again. So, make the God of your situation, whatever it might be, your health, service to others, your home life, make it God. Not your bank account, not the doctor, not your family members telling you can't do it. Make it God. God bless, guys. Bye.
When you look into your imagination, we'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation, living there. You will see what you truly wish to be. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to once you change the world, nothing to it. There is no life I know that compares with pure imagination. What you'll find